happy to be here. My name is Matt LANDMAN. I'm an activist in the United States based in Northern California. Grew up on the East Coast outside of Washington, D.C., and I'm proud to have tackled so many activism-related issues in my life thus far. I've made the film Frankenskies about the geoengineering agenda ongoing. I've also tackled the 5G issue as of late and launched an EMF protective clothing line, Spero, S-P-E-R-O, and I'm happy to play this part and do what we can in these times. Thank you.
For people to stay empowered in the face of being told, having this propaganda put in our faces daily by the media, the governments. So what can we do as people to stay empowered, to keep things going, and to help to inform others?
Thank you, Karen. I think I know it's really important in this age of disinformation and this age of falsehoods that we now live in, is to acknowledge, firstly, we live in a world of duality, right? So there are polar opposites. And right now we're in this space of fear. But what's the opposite of fear? What's on the flip side of fear? It's hope. So in a world of duality, of polarity, we have to recognize that there's two sides to everything. Also know that fear actually acidifies the body, leaving it susceptible to illness. So if we can take a step back, witness the fear, and see it for what it is, we can also empower ourselves with simple truths and bring the truth forward simply. I like the model KISS, K-I-S-S. I've got a master's degree in business, and almost every day in the classroom we learned to keep it simple, stupid, K-I-S-S, especially as activists honoring the truth with integrity. We can bring these things forward in a very gentle way. I like to have the conversation with people saying, do you know what COVID-19 stands for? Coronavirus disease of 2019. Did you know there was a COVID-18, COVID-17, COVID-16, COVID-15, and there will be a COVID-20, COVID-21, COVID-22? And just opening that in their heads, well, how did the world react to COVID-18, COVID-17, and did it have just as many implications as this? Okay, so I want to talk about frequency really quick. We can all learn more about frequency. If you learn about 432 hertz versus 440 hertz and the Nazi regime and Joseph Goebbels and how much we are influenced by frequency. Learn about Royal Raymond Rife, learn about Tesla, learn about Masaru Emoto, and you can see how susceptible we are to frequency manipulation, and then we can empower ourselves. For instance, I went backwards in time and got myself this little slider phone. This does everything that I need, and it doesn't interact with my brain waves and all that stuff. Also, it's important to know that we're in a battle of spirituality. There's light and dark, and this is playing out right before our eyes. And while we're being manipulated and we have all these falsehoods right in front of our faces, it's so important and amazing that we have this opportunity to cultivate our intuition. This means asking our heart, asking our guts, honoring our spirituality, and seeing the truth and knowing the truth by how it feels. Because, like I said, we're in this age of falsehood. And knowing and seeing, it's like stepping aside and seeing the ego, right? When you can step outside and witness your ego, you can also step outside and witness the fear and actually feel it. And what happens when you're in a space of fear? You're not empowered. You've lost all hope, right? And you're very easily susceptible to the manipulation of the media, conglomerates, and all this, everything, all of it, every which way. But when you can flip it and know, like I said, that we're in this world of polarity, duality, honor the hope side of it, and in hope we can empower and we can really just bring that truth forward and bring the knowledge to our friends, family, and peers in a grounded, level-headed way. Like I said, what's COVID-19 even stand for? Did you know that wearing a mask doesn't even do anything? I went into the post office yesterday and I didn't wear a mask, and I tried to put this over my mouth just for a minute, and the postal employee said, we're actually not allowed to tell you to wear a mask. And I said, thank God, because I'm not doing it anyways. But just these little simple things, honoring our spirituality and that we're here for a reason, right? We're here to bring the truth forward for the children, for the next generation, honoring that truth and shining that light, we can really lead by example, by not being in that place of fear, by being completely empowered, standing our ground, leading by example. Thank you so much.
Let's say things happen. The grocery store shelves start to become empty. What can we do now at this point in time to be able to prepare for that? To network with other people, possibly, find farmers, find people who are growing their food, set up a trade situation, start stocking beans and rice. It's not to be an alarmist. It's to say, hey, if we are so tied to supermarkets, the electric company, our water supply, and all those things, can we do things right now to help us feel like we have prepared? Not to make a run on toilet paper, right? Because that obviously has created a lot of fear in everybody. But what can we do now? So would anyone like to chime in on that? I'm going to divert to Matt Lemon.
Hi, I'd love to talk about it. After I got my MBA, I went and worked on an organic farm. And at the age of 35, I thought I knew everything, you know how people get. I learned that potatoes grew potatoes. And it pretty much blew my mind because I lived with potatoes. They tried to grow under my sink and in my pantry, but never did I know that just dropping the potato in the ground and putting some dirt over it, that I would be growing actual potatoes. And that little bit kind of snapped my indoctrination, made me realize that all this public education and 4 years getting a bachelor's of science and then getting a master's in business administration, focus in strategic sustainability, graduated top of my class. I didn't know potatoes grew potatoes, okay? This little simple thing can kind of snap you out of this helplessness where we get stuck in this frequency of fear, right? Just honoring that truth starts to open up these different worlds. You know, you put the seed in the ground and it grows, and here it is. We just have to cultivate it. And these simple little things, I know it sounds like nothing, but I know there's people listening that are like, potatoes grow potatoes. Wow, thanks for that, Matt. It's very simple, some of these empowering things, but organic farming is just like that. You learn by doing. So I encourage everyone, anyone out there, stick a seed in the ground, see what happens, learn and repeat.
I want to switch gears now and go into surveillance. This is a big topic, and I'd like, Mark Steele to kind of chime in about the 5G and surveillance, smart meters on the homes, things like that, how people can opt out. So I think, Matt Landman, you wanted to share with us some information, some protection from nanotech, as well as the surveillance.
Oh, yes. Thank you for calling on me. Firstly, it's really important to understand all of this through empowering truth and information. I recommend everyone get an EMF meter to see what they're dealing with. Empower yourself by getting that smart meter off your home or taking steps towards that. Get wired internet, not Wi-Fi, or at least unplug at night. Mitigate how much you're exposed to so that when the 5G does come, you don't have this accumulated radiation. But in terms of surveillance and tracking and whatnot, I've launched a clothing line titled Sparrow, S-P-E-R-O. It's at sparrowprotectionclothing.com or sparrowapparel.com. I'm lining clothing and hats with silver material. It's literal silver. And what I do is I put my cell phone in these Sparrow silver lined bags, and the phone cannot be tracked. It can't be traced. Nothing can happen. I did have a smartphone, and I would turn it on airplane mode, turn all the apps off. I put it inside this bag, and it gets all hot trying to figure out what I'm doing, where I'm going, what I'm up to, even though it says it's off, right? So there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, but empowering yourself with the knowledge and the know-how, get a cheap EMF meter, start with the basics, ditch the Bluetooth. There's all these little things that are promoting and prompting us for this transhuman reality, which I think a lot of this 5G and all these things, injections of nanobots or whatever you want to talk about, or these chips and stuff, it's all a transhumanism agenda to disrupt our spiritual evolution, how I see it. And if we can empower ourselves with the understanding and see where it's all going, I mean, I hate to promote the clothing line, but there's other options out there. But especially knowing that you can protect yourself, knowing that there's options, and also mitigating what you're being exposed to now. Don't be afraid of your peers, what they're going to think. Go backwards in time, get yourself a nice little flip phone, and stop radiating yourself, especially when you're in bed. Like when you go to sleep, get all those devices out of your bedroom. There's a lot of simple things you can do to mitigate this before we're pushed into this new world agenda. We are co-creator, manifestors of a consensus reality. And the majority speaks, but we are a growing majority. Every single person listening, you are also an activist. It's not just us. You can play your part. Even if you knit, you can knit for truth, okay? Every single person out there can play their part, and you would never believe the ability that you have once you start to try. Personally, I have these little flyers that I go out in the world promoting my film, Frankenskies, but you can promote any truth you want. Fracking is bad, or the COVID 1984. Even if you just graffitied COVID 1984, you're now my best friend. But I want to encourage you to get local. Get in contact with your local representative, okay? Your congressman, your member of parliament, your president, they are not going to help you, okay? There's a 5G antenna coming to your neighborhood, and it's time to get local. There's a website, My Street, My Choice, okay? My Street, My Choice. And if you empower your neighborhood to say no, then they will do exactly that. Get this information to your local representative, your local county board of supervisors, or your mayor, and come to them very level-headed. I've got a website, actualactivists.com. There's a 5G tab, lots of information there. But if you keep it simple and you ask these people, do you want a 5G tower on your doorstep? And they do the research, they'll start to think twice. We've had a lot of successes. I've spoken at over a dozen cities in the United States, and some of them, the mayor has stopped the meetings and said, well, what can be done? And they find out that Mill Valley, California, for instance, where these executives that work in the telecom industry, where they live, they have banned 5G from the residential neighborhoods. So there are successes. You can mirror these successes, and it can be done. You just have to spark the conversation, follow up. If you're quarantined, email these people, get the ball rolling, have the conversations, get your local people involved. You would never believe the spark that you can make, okay? Malcolm X quote, and I'll be done. Malcolm X said the biggest obstacle he ever had was trying to mobilize a sleeping populace. We're still there waking people up, okay? It's still our job. Every single person listening, you can play your part. Just play your part, please, and have hope. I love everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Absolutely great message.